Welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to do big damage in Mechagon Workshop using the Tinker's anti-personnel squirrel mind control tech. Not only is this strategy incredibly fun, but it does more and more damage the higher you go since the damage scales with key level. First, I'll cover the mechanics of how and why this technique works. Second, I'll discuss how to pull this technique off using my custom weak aura linked in the description below. And finally, I'll go over the risks involved with using this technique. You definitely want to stick around until the end because as fun as this is to do, if done incorrectly, you can easily wipe your group and brick the entire key. So how is it that we can do massive AoE damage with mind control? The Mechagon Tinkerer is a mob you can find in 4 packs throughout the dungeon. It has 2 abilities, Giga Wallop, which is just a targeted cast, and Summon Anti-Personnel Squirrel, which chases a random hostile enemy and detonates underneath it. If you've run this dungeon before, you've probably seen the white swirlies on the ground that your team has to dodge. If you mind control the Tinker and cast their Summon Anti-Personnel Squirrel yourself, the squirrel becomes friendly and acts as if you summoned it. Summon Anti-Personnel Squirrel has a 15-second cooldown, so if you run my weak aura that tracks the cooldown, you can easily mind control the Tinkerers multiple times for big damage. The Tinkerer will recast the squirrel as soon as it's off cooldown, so you have to mind control her before you see the ability come off cooldown. So what's the best way to pull this off? The first pack you'll encounter in the dungeon with Tinkerers is the pack immediately after you kill the second boss, Cujo. 2 Tinkerers will spawn and both will start casting Giga Wallop. You want to immediately mind control one of the Tinkerers and cast Summon Anti-Personnel Squirrel, which is the second action button from the left, so it will correspond with whatever hotkey you have bound to your second ability. Once the cast finishes, hit Escape to cancel your mind control. If you immediately mind control the second Tinkerer, you can also cast its anti-personnel squirrel, but if you wait too long for the second mind control, the Tinker will cast that one as a hostile squirrel. Once both are cast, you want to track the cooldown and mind control the original Tinkerer right before the Summon Anti-Personnel Squirrel comes off cooldown for a second cast and immediately swap to the second Tinkerer. So that all sounds amazing, right? We like big damage. How could it possibly go wrong? The first drawback is both you and your team are left incredibly vulnerable while you're channeling mind control. You can't heal yourself or any of your allies, and breaking mind control acts as a taunt, so the Tinkerer will come running toward you. Breaking mind control has an interesting interaction where if the tank taunts back, there's a good chance that the Tinker will come after you again after a few seconds. If you plan to mind control both Tinkerers in this pack, it can be very risky. Saving Personals, Guardian Spirit, and Fade might be a good idea. Being able to pull this off while reducing risk takes practice. Second, the anti-personnel squirrel targets a random hostile target and the range is very large. I'm not sure exactly how large, but it might be up to 100 yards. This means for the second Tinkerer pack right before third boss, the squirrel can target the little bots in the maze and effectively do nothing, or even charge at the boss and pull it accidentally. Similarly, on the last platform, the first Tinkerer squirrel can charge up to the last pack right before the boss. So generally speaking, the 2 Tinkerers in the first pack are free damage as long as you can live them, but the other packs are much more risky. If you're running a Warlock, you'll generally want to skip the last pack before the last boss, but if you have to pull this pack, you'll get a lot of work out of the last Tinkerer. Just be careful since that pack can also require a lot of healing and dispels. While we're on the topic of the Warlock skip at the end, you can Mind Soothe the closest mob to the gate to help prevent any unwanted pulling while people take the gate. And finally, this technique is risky if your group gets used to you mind controlling squirrels and always assumes they can stand on the swirlies. When I'm playing with people in voice, I tell my group to assume each squirrel is bad unless I tell them otherwise. This squirrel tech was around back in BFA and many priests use it, but since priests weren't serious contenders in the push meta, we never got to see any crazy innovation with this strategy. It might be possible to pull the Tinkerers into bosses or pull large trash onto bosses and use the Tinkerer much like Necrotic Wake Fleshcrafters were used. I'm excited to see how it develops over the course of the season. Let me know how much damage you're doing with your squirrels or any funny stories of squirrels gone wrong in the comments section below. Don't forget to grab the squirrel tracking weak aura in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section or while I'm streaming here on YouTube or over on Twitch. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.